Hello, it's me again, Eric P. Today's episode is going to be an Halloween special. So it's just a little story I heard off somebody. Basically, I've got some friends over in the United States that live in New England. And one year they invited me over for an Halloween do. It was a costume party. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll show you a quick picture now, and I'll get onto the story. It's about a guy named Norman, a grumpy old guy, but you can't blame him for being a bit grumpy when you hear the story. Right, I shall show you in a minute, and here's the picture. Yeah. Right, that was a picture. Should give you a rough idea what this episode's about. Kind of. Right, anyway, I arrived over in New England. I met my friends, got ready for the party. So I went down to like the local costume shop. So I went in, I said, listen fella, I said, have you got a pumpkin outfit? He said, I'm sorry mate. He said, we got no pumpkin outfits. He said, we're all out. He said, with it being Halloween, he said, everything monsters, Frankenstein, it's all gone pretty much. I said, oh, well, I'm going to need a costume. I said, what have you got? He said, I've got a Tigger one. I said, Tigger? He said, you know, Tigger off Winnie the Pooh. I said, bloody Tigger off Winnie the Pooh. I said, it's not exactly a frightening costume, that, is it? He said, look, he said, if you had a choice between stroking a pumpkin or a tiger, what would you go for? I said, yeah, I suppose a tiger is quite vicious, even if it is Tigger. Yeah, okay, I'll have the Tigger one. So I got this Tigger costume, big long tail on it, all fluffy and orangey, as you'd expect. So I went to the party and I was stood there, you know, with my friend, drinking away. We had this punch, it was bloody toxic. I was getting, you know, a bit giddy. But yeah, I'm drinking this. Anyway, I looked over in the corner and there's this old guy, and then he stood up and he started grumbling and shouting at people. And I turned to my friend and said, what's his problem? He said, oh, he always gets like this round about Halloween. We thought we'd best invite him. It's, you know, trying to make him feel part of the community again. I said, why, what's wrong with him? He said, oh, it's a long story, it's a bit grim. I said, well, you know, I've got all the time in the world, so why don't you tell me the story? He said, yeah, go on and I'll tell you the story. Right, so this is the story. I'll show you one more picture, just to break things up, you know, break the monotony, and then I'll get on with the main story. Right, here we go, here's the picture. Yep. Yeah, right, well, that was a picture. Right, what I'll do is, I'll do it like a flashback. So I'll do all the characters. I like to do me a little bit of acting. A little bit like Laurence Olivier, me really, in my own way. Yeah. Anyway, this story's based in 1954. So this guy Norman, the old guy at the party, this is when he was a kid. He was about 12 years old. So we'll just take it from there. Anyway, he's at school, Norman, and he's talking to the other kids, and the other kids come over to him and they start talking, and he said, hey, it's getting up to Halloween. He said, yeah, I know, I'm excited. Great Halloween, isn't it? They said, yeah. They said, you know that guy that's next door to you? He said, what, the old guy? They said, yeah. They said, he's a vampire, you know. I said, he said, a bloody vampire? Vampires don't exist. What are you about vampires? I've heard of Christopher Lee and that, but I know a vampire living next door to me. They said, look, he's a vampire. We all know. We've been keeping an eye on his house. It's well known that he's like a vampire that moved into the area. It turns out he's Romanian or something. Originally, he's from Transylvania. He said he's from Transylvania. How do you know that? They said, oh, you know, we're just talking like, you know, in the neighbourhood and that, and it found out that he's like a Romanian immigrant. He said, well, that doesn't really make him a vampire. Not everybody in, like, Romania is a vampire, you know. And he said, well, it's coming up to Halloween, and he's next door to you. Don't fancy your chances much. He'll probably come round and give you a nasty bite on the neck. I don't think he bloody will. I don't know what you're talking about. Look, I do not believe that this guy is a vampire. He said, well, why don't you test it? You know, there's loads of ways to test for a vampire. So why don't you, like, do a few tests? We'll come with you. We'll come round to your house and you can go around and you can do, like, a little test. He said, oh, what the hell, if it convinces you, I'll do it. It's a bit of fun. It's something to do building up to Halloween, isn't it? So, yeah. So, anyway, these kids went round to his house. And it was, like, getting later on. And Norman's mum made them all something to eat and stuff like that, give them a few sweets. Anyway, they're all sat down. He said, why don't you, like, offer him something, like, made of garlic? You know, with garlic in it. Because we know vampires can't eat garlic, don't we? He said, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll go around and I'll offer some, like, I'll make something with garlic in it, I'll offer it, I'll tell you what happened. He went, right, so no problem. Right, so I'll show you another little picture, like I said, because it gets a bit long otherwise, and then we'll get back to the story. So like I said, he's gone to bed, and it's going to be the next day he's going to try testing him with a bit of garlic. Right, here's the picture. Ooh. I try and make it a bit scary for Halloween. You like that? Ooh. Yeah, good that, innit? Right, let's see the picture. Yep. Right, that was a picture. Anyway, later that night, Norman decides to have a little bit of a look out of his window and watch the house next door. Luckily, he's got some binoculars. What he's doing with binoculars, I've got no idea. Bit pervy that, but yeah, he's got some binoculars in his bedroom. So he's looking out the net curtains at next door. It was like a big monster house, you know, a dead old, like, creepy, gothic-looking house that's next door. So he's watching it there. Anyway, later that night, as he's watching with his binoculars, he sees this guy, like, walking up the path all crooked and like a weird walk, like a limp. And this guy's like walking with like a hunch and he's walking towards the door. And Norman's thinking, bloody hell, he's got his own bloody ego. He's got his own assistant. Maybe he is from Romania. So, yeah, so he's watching away and he sees this guy going in the house. Anyway, the guy comes out the house about, I don't know, 20 minutes later, and then he goes stumbling down the path again with his limp and he's like, bent over, and he's just like walking down the path in his ego type style way. Anyway, as he's watching, he sees these bats flying up into the roof of the house, and he thinks, bats? Bloody hell, maybe he's a vampire. He's from Transylvania. Bats coming and going at the night, and he's got his own like ego. Maybe he really is a vampire. Oh, bloody hell, best watch this guy. Anyway, so even though he thinks he might have a vampire living next door to him, he says, well, I need a kip anyway, so he goes to bed. And he wakes up in the morning. Anyway, later that night, about, I don't know, 8 o'clock, the sun's gone down. It's not really late, but it's about 8 o'clock. Anyway, the old guy from next door, this Romanian guy, knocks on the door. And Norman's mum answers it. She says, oh, hello. How are you doing? How's things? And he says, I'm not so well at the moment. And Norman's there watching from like the stairs. He can see what's going on. And he thinks, I know, I've got some garlic chicken in the fridge. It's absolutely covered in garlic. I'll offer him some of that. Let's see how that goes. So he runs off, gets it from the fridge. And he walks over. He says, oh, hello. He said, I've got some garlic chicken here. Do you want some of my garlic chicken? He went, oh, bloody hell no. I don't want to eat any garlic chicken. If I eat that, it'll bloody kill me. He said, I can't eat garlic. He said, no, I'll leave it. Thanks for the offer, though, anyway. And then he, like, you know, he finishes talking to Norman's mum, and then he walks down the path and he thinks, oh, bloody hell. Norman's thinking he won't eat bloody garlic. He's allergic to garlic. Allergic to garlic. You've got bats. You've got his own ego. Bloody hell, I'll have to do something when it's going to strike Halloween like tomorrow. I don't want to be his next victim. So anyway, here's another picture, and then we'll finish the story off. Right, here we go. I won't do the little woo noise this time. Don't want to overpower everybody. So, right, here's the picture. Yep. Yep. A picture. So anyway, next morning he's eating his cornflakes. So he's sat there and he thinks, bloody hell, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. He says, this bloke next door, he really is a bloody vampire. What the bloody hell am I going to do about that? Anyway, he looks over at the paper and there's this story about this serial killer. He's been draining people of like all his blood. And he's like, it's not a serial killer. It's bloody him next door. He's been draining people of his blood. It's a bloody vampire. He's been feasting. Oh, bloody hell, I've really got to do something about this. Anyway, later on he meets his friends, and his friends said, look, did you test that guy next door? He said, yeah, I tested him. He said he's got his own like ego walking up the path I saw, and he won't eat garlic. He says it'll kill him, so he definitely don't like garlic. And they said, yeah, have you heard about all them people turning up with no blood? I told you he was a bloody vampire. And Norman's like, yeah, I think you're right here. I mean, bodies with no blood in, allergic to garlic. I mean, what more evidence do you need? So, yeah, they said, well, what are you going to do? It's Halloween tomorrow. He said, well, I don't know, really. They said, well, how did you test him? He said, well, he come up to my door and I offered him some garlic. He was like stood at my door talking to my mum. But if he was a vampire, wouldn't you just like come in and killed us? You can't do that. You've got to invite him over the threshold. If you're not inviting him in, he can't do anything. oh, he's probably waiting for Halloween. He'll come in and kill you tomorrow when he comes round to your house or whatever. She'll let him in because it's Halloween and he'll have all of you. You'll all be dead. So Norman's thinking, oh, bloody hell, I've got to do something. What the bloody hell can I do? They said, look, we've made a stake for you. If you go around and finish him off, you'll save thousands of lives. I said, well, I can't bloody kill somebody. They said, it's not a somebody. He's the undead. He's already dead. I mean, he's not a real person. He's like a demon entity, isn't he? I said, well, I suppose so. Right, I'll go round this afternoon and I'll do the job. Because that's the kind of hero I am. So anyway, waited till the afternoon. He saw the back door open. He went in with his stake and his little mallet. Walks up the stairs and he looks over and he sees the old guy with the curtains drawn in the dark asleep. So he thinks, right, this is my chance. I'll have to do it. I don't want to do it, but I'll have to do it. Anyway, he lifts up the stake. He says, die, die, ye evil one. And he plunges the stake into his heart and hits it with a mallet. Blood everywhere. So he goes back to his house, changes his clothes, has a shower. Anyway, his mum gets back. She walks in. She says, bloody hell, she said, did you hear they've caught that serial killer that's been draining people of blood? Some nutter with his own van, works at the hospital. Absolute bloody loony. Anyway, they've arrested him, so that's that one dealt with. So no more serial killers, thank God. What have you been doing today? He said, oh, not a lot. She said, yeah. She said, oh, and by the way, don't offer him next door garlic again. She says, I can't believe you did that. If he'd have had that, it'd have killed him. That medication he's on, it shuts all his bloody airways. The guy will bloody suffocate if he touches garlic. The doctor said under no circumstance touch garlic. So whatever you do, don't accidentally give him any, because you'll end up bloody killing him. And Norman went, right, okay. Yeah. He said, is he from Transylvania by chance? She said, Transylvania? He's not been anywhere near bloody Transylvania. Apparently he's from Wales originally. Used to be a miner. Has a few breathing problems. That's why he's not really been so well. I give him some sleeping tablets, so he's like sleeping during the day to help him. So I went round and made sure he didn't overdose or anything, so he's just had the right amount. So don't disturb him and try not to make any loud noises. Norman went, right, okay. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Norman ended up going away and spending some time with some doctors. They locked him up. So he was in a mental institution for a few years. He got released, but had another few problems, went back in. He's been in and out of mental institutions for years. Yeah. But he lives in this neighbourhood, which is why he got invited to the party. So, yeah, interesting little story. So, yeah, poor Norman ended up getting arrested for murdering the old guy next door. Suppose these things happen. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed the story. Just thought I'd give you something a little bit different, something a bit Halloween-y. So, yeah, right, I hope you enjoyed that. I shall see you later. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe if you can. Every subscription helps. And watch all my other videos. Right, so it's Eric P. Wisdom Quotes Life. If you type that in the search engine, I'll come up. I'll turn up and then you can subscribe if you'd like to, which I hope you do. Right, I shall see you later. Bye.